So Marvel movies are kind of everywhere, aren't they? As humans, we love a good story about a hero that wants to do the right thing. It just gives us the warm fuzzies. I mean, my personal real-life hero is Idris Elba with his sexy British black man voice.
Booking dot.
Thousands of years ago, before the MCU, people shared their own stories, known as myths, from person to person, and the most interesting ones ended up sticking. I mean, who doesn't love hearing stories about Zeus putting his god wiener where it doesn't belong? A lot of these stories have a similar structure and arc for the hero in their quest, known as the hero's journey. This concept was discovered by this beautiful man right here. Today, I'm going to show how Marvel movies both fall into and remix the idea of the hero's journey as I go through the steps. Also, sorry if I sound a bit weird. I kind of threw up my voice this past weekend. I have a job that involves me talking a lot and sometimes yelling. It's just how it is, you know. The first section is the call to adventure. This is basically some event that causes the hero to have to start their journey. Think an alarm clock, but for an adventure. Will you shut the fuck? The steps in this section usually involve a hero being in their ordinary world, then getting the call to adventure, and sometimes refusing that adventure as well. In Iron Man, Tony Stark is perfectly fine with his day-to-day life as a
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Yeah, that. His call to adventure is when he's doing a demonstration of his new big weapon and is kidnapped by some terrorists who use the same weapons he made against the innocent. He's then forced to build a suit to escape and then decides to become a hero instead of making weapons. In Shang-Chi, Sean is happy with his mundane life as a valet until he gets a letter from his sister and his father sends some baddies to test his skills, which causes him to go to China to see what all this BS is about. It also causes the best fight scene in a Marvel movie to date. Seriously. I love this scene. In Thor, this idea is played with a bit. Thor's ordinary world is that of a god, and his call to action is when his dad tells him that he's being a
vain, greedy, cruel boy,
and banishes him to the human world. It's kind of like an Uno reverse card of the typical call to action. The second section is the supreme orientation / initiation. This is where the hero enters their new world and faces challenges and tests in order to be a hero. This section usually involves some sort of mentor or helper, crossing the threshold into the new world, encountering friends and enemies, and usually some sort of test. In Spider-Man Homecoming, it's made very clear that Iron Man is Peter Parker's mentor. He faces some lower level villains like the Shocker and what will eventually become the Prowler, played by the incomparable Donald Glover, and saves all of his friends from a falling elevator, all in his quest to find his main villain, the Vulture. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, meets his dad, Ego, who is a god and shows him how to use his celestial powers. I know it sounds weird, just roll with it, okay? And they meet some new friends like Mantis, Ego's helper, and they team up with former villain from the last movie, Yondu. This movie actually puts a spin on the mentor trope because the mentor eventually ends up being the main antagonist of the movie who killed Star-Lord's mother when he was a kid. You just don't mess with anybody's mother, fam. The third section is the unification / transformation section. This is basically where the hero faces a big threat and goes through some sort of transformation in order to beat them. The steps usually involved here are some sort of approach that the hero has to make towards the villain, the hero facing some sort of ordeal, and the hero gaining some sort of reward after beating the villain. In Black Panther, T'Challa goes up against his cousin for the throne and is defeated. In order to come back to life, he is given a serum to return his Black Panther powers, and T'Challa goes to the afterlife to visit his late father and tells his ancestors that
You are wrong! All of you are wrong!
for turning their back on the world and only focusing on Wakanda. He then goes back to face his cousin in what admittedly is kind of a terribly CGI'd fight. And ends up beating him. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter Parker messes up so badly that his mentor takes away his flashy high-tech suit and he's forced to use a homemade one. On top of that, the villain buries him under some rubble and he's forced to tap into his inner strength to get himself out. This one kind of remixes the idea of a transformation because it's not a literal transformation like Goku going Super Saiyan or something, but a transformation from one's inner self to find the strength to keep going. The last section is the road back / hero's return. This one usually involves the hero going back to their ordinary world, but with their new abilities. In Shang-Chi, after Sean's father's death, he gets the 7 rings once used by his father, and returns back home. He's then informed by some of the other Avengers that he has to prepare for his new life as a hero. In Spider-Man No Way Home, after beating all of the baddies from the other universes and sending them home, everyone's memory of Peter Parker is erased in order to stop more multiversal baddies from coming to the world. He then has to start a new life as a college student where no one remembers that he existed and continues to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. People may not sit around fires telling myths about vengeful gods anymore, but they continue to pack theaters to experience the epic and tragic tales of superheroes that want just one thing: to do what's right. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention how Captain Marvel goes through the hero's journey. Okay, so after losing her memory, just kidding, I'm not talking about it because that movie sucks.